Good evening, everybody. Let's call to order the Narragansett Town Council regular meeting. Today is Monday, December 18th, 2023. The time is 7 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Hope everyone is faring well at this weather event we're having. First order of business is approval of minutes. We have a motion to accept and place on file the minutes from the November 20th, 2023 work session meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have a motion to accept and place on file the minutes from the November 20th, 2023 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Next up, we have a motion to accept and place on file the minutes from the November 20th, 2023 executive session meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I think I wasn't.
No, you.
I think I wasn't there the 23rd. I can't remember which was there.
Okay,
think
so
you
we
were.
have motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 4 with 1 abstention. Next, we have open forum public comment.
President, do you want to have the announcements and presentations first?
There's no announcements or presentations. So open forum public comment. The comments of citizens addressing the council are neither adopted nor endorsed by the body, but heard as requested. Public comment will not be taken on matters involving open litigation. And the rules are to sign in to speak, which is there's a sign-in sheet at the back of the chambers. State your name and address. Speak only on topics not on the meeting agenda. And there is a 3-minute time limit per speaker subject matter. And please be orderly and respectful. Mr. Tierney, do we have anyone that signed up? Chris Uber. Second one is Kevin McKenna. Mr. McKenna.
Well, hopefully I can speak on this issue, but you can tell me if I can or I can't. My name is Kevin McKenna, and I live at 31 Pleasant Avenue in Narragansett. I'm here tonight to voice my support for reducing the number of unrelated persons in a dwelling.
Mr. McKenna, that's the public hearing, so you'll be allowed to speak at the public hearing?
You will be able to...
Yes,
allow-
yeah,
Okay.
so you can speak as long as you want, no limit on that.
Okay,
So
so that'll be tonight, or-
7:30 tonight.
Oh, at 7:30 tonight?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
And the third list is Gina Girard.
Ms. Jarama?
Thank you. Good evening, council. I'd like to take the opportunity to talk to you guys about the prioritize of affordable housing and workforce housing in Narragansett. I'm hoping that this council can I can urge this council to think about those as priorities moving forward in the new year. By approving such initiatives, we can ensure that families from diverse backgrounds can find a place to call home in our beautiful town. Not only does this foster inclusivity, but it also contributes to the overall vitality of our community. In addition to housing, let's consider also the well-being of families, especially our children in town. By introducing some more family-friendly programming, like, for example, a seasonal ice rink, which will provide recreational activities that enhance the quality of our life for our residents, not just in the summer, but also in the winter. These initiatives not only promote physical activity, but also create spaces for families to connect and build lasting memories here. Furthermore, embracing diversity is crucial for the growth and prosperity of our town. Let's actively welcome people from different walks of life, fostering an environment where everyone feels valued and included. This inclusivity not only enriches our cultural fabric, but also attracts a vibrant and a diverse population, contributing to the town's economic and social development. On a practical note, relocation of the town hall to the old library space would open up a significant portion of a residential area for some affordable and workforce housing. It would be a great move to see this building in the center of the pier with the other municipal buildings. Just think this could be a possible 20 or 30 units, with more housing located a short walk from the middle school and the high school. What a great family-friendly environment this could be. It would also enhance some accessibility to conveniences and create a more thriving community. So by prioritizing housing, family-friendly diversity, I think this council could do some great things in the next year. I urge you to consider these proposals with the well-being of our community in mind, and together that can shape the future of this town. Hopefully those aspirations will represent you as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Tierney, was there anyone else wishing to speak?
No one else.
Ms. Celeberto?
Catherine Celeberto, 48 Earls Court. Number one, I have written to Mr. Tierney about an increase in the stipend for the town council members. To repeat what I've said in the past, Narragansett's about 30th down on the list in the rate of a stipend that the town council members receive. I don't know when the last time a raise was instituted, probably 20 years ago. And I think the stipend should go up according to inflation automatically, probably once a year. Still waiting for an answer, Jim. Next item. Back when the town passed the homestead exemption, Patrick Murray proposed that the inventory tax be repealed. At that time, we had an inventory tax on the first $35,000. And the town council voted to repeal the inventory tax in Narragansett. It isn't just a repeal, though. It became an exemption. And every business in town receives 35 times 12 this year, $420 off your tax bill, whether they have $35,000 worth of inventory or not. Now, I don't want to pick on Mr. Glantz, but I walk for exercise, so I walk by his little office over there in the Pier Marketplace. It is Glantz Financial Services. I looked it up. Nobody's ever in there. You know, he has $100 worth of inventory, and yet he gets $420 off his tax bill. I don't know how this happened. Okay, fast forward to January 2024. Scacacci has proposed an inventory exemption on the first $50,000, and I know we're going to raise ours to that. But I'm wondering, are we going to get reimbursement for the first 35 because we already have an exemption, or are we just going to get reimbursement for the 35 to 50, 15,000? It's a question I'm trying to get an answer to. I read through the bill, you know, how these bills, they contradict each other. You know, you write in one line, you think it's good for you, then you read 5 lines later, you go, ooh, we're going to really get it on this one. So it's just a question I'd like answered. You know, you don't have to answer it now. I hope somebody answers it for me. Are we going to get that for full $50,000 reimbursed to the town? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in public comment? Dr. Alva? This is open forum, correct?
Thank you. I'm first start talking about wind farms. I've done some research. They have a high startup cost that in all likelihood will result in high electrical costs. They may forever adversely affect our fishing industries and our ocean's fragile ecosystem. Ask the fishermen. Please do your own research. Orsted pulled out of New Jersey and New York with over $100 million in losses. Why? If they cannot make it in those states, our neighboring states, why will it help Rhode Island? Life expectancies are only 20 years. Then they become demolished. The wind turbines are difficult to dispose of. We will forever pollute our coast in our unobstructed views. As the 5-acre parcel of the RIDM leased land in Galilee, where Proximity Palino intentionally created a health, safety, and environmental hazard, we can't rely on the RIDM or our governor to save Narragansett from the corporate billionaires from harming our environment. The RIDM has failed in its fiduciary responsibilities. Therefore, the Narragansett Town Council needs to file suit against the RIDM and Proximity Palino for the harm they have created in Galilee. In addition, the RIDM is allowing Proximity Palino to circumvent the law by failing to issue a cease and desist order to stop the Prix from operating its illegal parking lots after its lease has been terminated. In addition, Prix has failed to demolish its hotel after the town served notice. In addition, the Narragansett Town Council needs to go on record and tell the RIDM and our governor we as a town are opposed to the wind farms for all the aforementioned reasons. If the NTC fails to act, then it is failing in its fiduciary responsibility to protect our town and our ocean from corporate environmental pollution. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the Narragansett Town Council to take the needed action to save our environment, our fishing industry, and our coastal environment. I strongly urge all of you to do your research on wind farms. Also, we can all see what's happened in Galilee. I issued an APRA request, which the Attorney General just opened up. And I asked, was a new lease generated? They said absolutely no new lease has been generated. Well, as we all know, if a lease has not been generated, why are they still collecting rent? The lease has been terminated. If any kind of a lease, a month-to-month, or any kind of extension, it has to go to the State Properties Committee. We all know this. When the previous lease was terminated, they requested a 6-month extension. That had to get approved by the State Properties Committee. They are circumventing the law. So it's very frustrating to me and our residents that why is the RIDM allowing this to happen? So I urge you, please, do your fiduciary duties. Go on record. Stand up to these corporate billionaires in the RIDM. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to comment during public comment? Seeing no hands up, let's move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Next, moving on to new business, we have a motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading for an ordinance in amendment of Chapter 70 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Taxation and Finance.
So moved.
Second.
There's, on second readings, we have no public comment on these. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Next, from the Community Development Department, we have a motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading of an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, as it relates to several text revisions to various sections of the zoning ordinance for the purpose of complying with General Assembly mandates enacted in the 2023 legislative session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We won't take public comment on this, but I would like to make some comments. So just, we've gotten a lot of scrutiny from a lot of individuals and from the General Assembly. And then we just want to correct what's been said in the press. So Narragansett's proposed zoning ordinances adopts all of the provisions of the housing legislation, which was mandated, or we can say required, by the General Assembly. So just to clarify, the only part of the housing legislation that is not being adopted is inclusionary zoning. The legislation for inclusionary zoning is the one bill that is optional and not mandatory. And so I need to point out that most of the changes in the zoning ordinance do absolutely nothing to help affordable housing as they were advertised to do so. Only a couple of the changes will result in the creation of a few affordable houses in Narragansett. Rather, most of the changes mandated by the recent state legislation allows for the development of bigger houses on small lots. And the changes reduce opportunities for community comments on development proposals. Unfortunately, over the years, these zoning changes will have a big impact on Narragansett neighborhoods, where small lots were created for summer cottages. This legislation requires the town to permit much larger houses on these lots that were, as I said, created for cottages and created long before the town had modern zoning. It reduces the required setbacks from property lines so that these larger houses will be closer to neighbors. So I want to emphasize that the town has no discretion in these changes. So when a house gets built in your neighborhood that is too big for the lots and too close to the neighboring houses, don't blame the town planning office or building official. They have no control over these new standards permitting very large houses on small substandard lots. Inclusionary zoning has been part of Narragansett zoning for over 15 years. It was adopted in 2008. Inclusionary zoning requires that developments of more than 5 houses have at least 20% of those dwelling units be affordable for low-income households. In the 15 years since the town adopted inclusionary zoning, there have been 0, let me repeat that, 0 development projects that required inclusionary zoning. The inclusionary zoning legislation adopted by the General Assembly this year establishes a mandatory bonus density for inclusionary zoning that is 400%. That is 4 times as many houses per acre of land. So the town would have 4 times as many houses as allowed by current zoning, and only 1/4 of those additional houses would be affordable units. The planning board and the town's planning director are very supportive of inclusionary zoning. However, they believe that a 400% increase in density is not compatible with Narragansett's neighborhoods. Because inclusionary zoning has never been triggered in Narragansett since it was adopted in 2008, and since the planning board believes that comprehensive permits for creating affordable housing are a more attractive provision for developers, they recommended removing inclusionary zoning from the town's zoning ordinance. So again, comprehensive permits in place of inclusionary zoning. I think that's a better solution. Removing inclusionary zoning is not going to reduce the development of affordable housing in Narragansett. Since inclusionary zoning was adopted over 15 years ago, not one development application has triggered the requirement. So it is very unlikely that removing the provision from our zoning ordinance will impact affordable housing development in our town. It is not clear if the density bonus for inclusionary zoning mandated in this year's housing legislation is an error. We hope it is. If it is, we really hope that they will rectify it with legislation this coming year so that the town can re-adopt inclusionary zoning. So just to conclude and summarize these points, this zoning ordinance adopts all of the zoning provisions mandated by the state's housing legislation. Unfortunately, very few of the mandated changes will result in the construction of affordable houses. These zoning changes will permit building larger houses with smaller setbacks from property boundaries on small substandard lots. The General Assembly eliminated the town's control over those decisions. These zoning changes remove the provision for inclusionary zoning because the 400% density bonus mandated by changes in state legislation is incompatible with Narragansett neighborhoods. We hope the General Assembly revises the legislation mandating this excessive density bonus for developers And we actually look forward to collaborating with the state to improve this legislation that was passed and making amendments. So thank you for the opportunity. I'm going to just move for a vote because this is a second reading. So all in favor?
Actually, I'd like to, well, first of all, those are your words, but I echo it. Thank you so much for putting that together. But I do have one more statement I want to include in this, because as Gina so eloquently spoke tonight, we do need to have affordable housing. The speaker, he's a zoning attorney, he works with developers, he understands how this could happen. But I'm going to encourage him to please find some money to give to URI so URI can build dormitories. That's what's needed. The URI students that we have, between 6,000 to maybe 8,000 living in town, are taking up our housing stock, have caused the investors to be able to make a good amount of money off the university. So please, Mr. Speaker, find some money, build some dormitories for the university students so we can have our housing stock back, so we can bring more families to our town. Thank you, Ella.
Thank you. Okay, so again, let me just reiterate, this is a motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading an ordinance in amendment of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, as it relates to several text revisions to various sections of the zoning ordinance for the purpose of complying with General Assembly mandates enacted in the 2023 legislative session. It was motioned by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next up, we have a motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading of an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, as it relates to several discretionary text revisions to various sections of the zoning ordinance for the purpose of adapting to and accommodating General Assembly mandates enacted in the 2023 legislative session.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 4 with 1 nay. Next up from the Fire Department, we have a motion to approve the renewal of a three-year service agreement for 5 LifePak 15 defibrillators and 2 Lucas chest compression systems for the Fire Department from Stryker Medical Incorporated in the amount of $41,307, payable in annual installments of $13,769, and to authorize the town manager to sign the contract after review by the town solicitor.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have a motion to approve the purchase of 1 new 2024 Dodge Ram 5500 4x4 custom-built Lifeline Superliner Type 1 AD Class 1 rescue vehicle from Specialty Vehicles Incorporated through HGAC Buy, Houston Galveston Area Council Purchasing Cooperative, in the amount of $352,305,000.
So moved.
Second?
And this is budgeted. So all in, any discussion from the council?
I just have a question. Jonathan, would you mind just explaining, this is a new ambulance, correct? State of the art?
It's Scott.
Scott?
Mr. Tierney, it is.
Yes, this is a replacement of a 23-year-old Rescue 3. The lead time ordering this, if it is approved this evening, would take about 7 months for us to get delivery of it. And the 2010 Rescue that's being replaced has mileage of about 121,000 on it right now. It's an all-new vehicle. Thank you.
Anyone from the public? I saw Ms. Ciliberto's first.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. I want to know if 2 firefighters are going to be assigned to this vehicle on each shift. Because last I heard, firefighters jump from the rescue to the engine. From the rescue to the engine, I don't know how this happens. They're cross-assigned. And if we're going to be buying this expensive new vehicle, I think that 2 firefighters on each shift should be trained and assigned to it. Just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Alba?
Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. Yes, I know when the police chief went off, they had to replace the guns. They sold the guns as like a cashback offer to buy the new guns. And I was just wondering if, with our old vehicle, if that's going to be, presented back to put up for sale to, maybe it could get restored or whatever it might be, get some kind of cash value for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to comment? Seeing no one, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. Next up, we have a motion to appoint one individual to the Planning Board for a 5-year term to expire on November 1st, 2028.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, so for this one, we'll take nominations. We recently interviewed 3 candidates for this appointment. After the nominations, anyone can nominate any of those 3 individuals, either 1, 2, or 3. And then whoever's nominating this individual, just explain why they're nominating this individual. And we'll discuss it, we'll come up with a consensus, and then we will make a motion to approve one of to approve the appointment. So with that, I will take nominations from the council.
I'd like to nominate Thomas Callahan. He's interviewed several.
We'll just keep on taking nominations. So anyone else wishing to nominate anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Brian Wagner.
Okay, any other nominations? Okay, seeing none. So Councilor Ferrandi, you can expand on your nomination.
Thank you, Eva. He's interviewed several times for the position of the planning board. And, he's got, from what I can see, he's got a very extensive resume, 35 years as a senior administrative and external relations leader. He's got some experience in relevant accomplishments with the, he did some University of Connecticut's work with some of the student affairs issues, which is kind of a big issue in our town. So I think he's, some of that expertise would be good for the town. He was also a vice president at UConn, senior advisor, counselor. He's worked effectively with a different town there to I guess they were building housing. And also with other, he was a $50 million operating budget with 300 employees. And he's also got experience as Aetna and Casualty Life Insurance Assistant Vice President. So I think he's got some good qualifications for the job.
Okay, Councilor Kopek.
First, I'd like to thank the folks who we interviewed. I thought they did a really great job, and I think we were incredibly fortunate that we have such qualified people, candidates for this job. My recommendation of Brian Wagner takes nothing away from Tom Callahan. Believe me, I think he's really wonderful at what he does. The reason that I'm nominating Brian Wagner is because he actually has a significant history working in planning. He's also an attorney, and he has a keen, specific understanding of some of the issues that we're going through, some of the things that Eva just discussed, when we passed the last couple of bills, last couple of items on our agenda. And I believe that we're expecting some significant additional activity from the General Assembly with regard to housing issues, particularly in planning and zoning. And I think that that Brian will have the ability to have, an absolute understanding of those issues simply because he works with them day to day in South Kingstown. So he is, like I said, it's an abundance of riches, and we are very lucky to have that. But I think Brian would be, my concern is mainly about what's going to happen in the next year or so, and I think that Brian is extremely well equipped for that. And I kind of like the idea of Tom staying on the zoning board, to be honest with you. So that's what I have to
Okay.
say.
Thank you. So we'll continue this conversation
Right, so-
after we finish the public hearing. So the time is 7:30 right now. So at this time, we need to move on to the public hearing decision portion of our meeting. So we have a motion to open and hold a public hearing on the proposed amendment of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett entitled Zoning, specifically Section 2.2 entitled Definitions, Households.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. So we just need, Mr. Davis, are you presenting this for us?
I don't know that there's much to present. We are proposing to reduce the number of unrelated persons in a household from 4 to 3. It's a matter that's been discussed for many years, and the reason for it coming before us tonight is because we recently passed a 3 college student ordinance, and for all the reasons that were provided for supporting that particular ordinance also apply to this, but more importantly, we need to be consistent. So whether the number was 3 or 4 didn't matter, but it does matter that we be consistent. And since we just recently adopted 3 college students, it's important from a consistency and enforcement standpoint to make the unrelated ordinance consistent with the 3 college student. And that is the main driver for making this change.
Thank you for that clear and succinct explanation. So at this time, if any of the council members have any comments or feedback or discussion, or if you'd like to yield to the public for to speak first, would you like to? Okay, so we're going to go to the public. Dr. Alba, I see your hand up. Would you like to speak on this? This is the motion for the 3 unrelated.
Yes, Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett, Rhode Island. I do. I'm in agreement with the town solicitor in this respect. One of the things we do not want to, we cannot show partiality or biases, and so I think we have to be consistent across the board. And on that note, I think we also now have to explore, I know the wheels are in motion, but we also have to look at our short-term rental situation, where we might have more than 3 unrelated and short-term rentals, which, as we all know, could be very problematic for our town, and this also has to be examined. But thank you very much. Thank you, Town Solicitor, for bringing this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Ms. Celeberto?
I do. Catherine Celeberto, Celeberto. I sent you all an email, but essentially, right now in Narragansett, since we have this inconsistency between the 3 student and the 4 unrelated, a rental owner who signed a lease before August 9th can have 4 students. If he signed a lease after August 9th, he can have 3 students and 1 non-student. If the person who signed a lease with 4 students before August 9th amends the lease after August 9th, the 3-student applies. Now, I go on Facebook, I see these URI students, they're all subletting their rooms, I don't know why. They all don't like their roommates. They're all going abroad. They're all going home. But I don't know that any of them are being informed that once they amend their lease, that the 3-student applies. But it's important that we have ordinances that don't conflict, but also don't conflict with the surrounding towns. Charleston, Westerly, South Kingston especially, they all have 3 unrelated ordinances. And for us not to have one has really pushed the students to this town. Also, when this is passed, and hopefully it will, I think that URI has to be formally notified and serve notice that any action on their part which encourages violation of Narragansett ordinances be dealt with legally. And I think this is important because URI has a link on their Office of Community Affairs site directing students to this offcampushousing.uri.edu. And on this site, there are multiple 5-bedroom houses advertised for rent for next year. They shouldn't be encouraging rental owners or students to be violating the ordinances in Narragansett. I also think this will be a major step toward mitigating the monetizing of single-family houses in this town. Right now, we know what the average sale rate is. I read in the paper 900,000. God, I hope it's not that high. Because 800,000, you have to make 200,000 a year in order to afford a mortgage, and that's with 20% down. This really has to stop. It's just become untenable. 43 kids in the first grade this year. 43 kids. 321 Narragansett resident students in the high school. So we really have to do something to bring back families in town. We need a balance. We've always had students, but not 1/3 of the single-family houses being occupied by them. And it goes up all the time. We just pretty much have to put a stop to it, or we'll just be a town of students, part-timers like my husband and I, I don't know, third full-timers. At some point, we're not even going to be able to have a town council. The cost of houses today, I don't even know how you're going to get people to come into town to even run for town council. I mean, Steve, you're going to pay $1.3 million for your house? I've read the figures. Yours went up, by the way, since you had those alterations. So, you're talking 800,000-900,000. I'm only kidding.
Actually it went down.
Oh, did it really? Yeah. Mine went up. But anyway, 800,000-900,000. Who's going to be able to afford these type of prices? And the group is just going to get narrower and narrower and narrower, and it's just really not a good thing for any town. But the inconsistency is the main thing here right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing? Oh, Mr. McKenna.
Kevin McKenna, 31 Pleasant Avenue, Narragansett. I agree with the, what's that again?
I just have to swear you in.
Yes, okay, great.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, it will.
Thank you.
I agree with the 3 previous speakers. My name is Kevin McKenna, and I live at 31 Pleasant Avenue in Narragansett. I'm here tonight to voice my support for reducing the number of unrelated persons in a dwelling from 4 to 3. 44 years ago, my wife and I purchased a home in a beautiful residential neighborhood named Eastwood Look. We loved the area because we could easily walk to the beach, or Black Point, and even Salt Pond. It was also close to Scarborough Beach area, where our families had resided for years. At that time, the area was mainly comprised of families that lived in their homes on a year-round basis. 13 years ago, my wife and I moved away from our home in Eastwood Look. We had lived in this home for more than 30 years. We raised our family in this home and experienced a lifetime of beautiful memories in this home. However, over the years, this beautiful family neighborhood had evolved into an off-site URI dormitory location. By 2010, I no longer knew the names of many of our neighbors. And at that time, I never knew what type of party might be staged during the upcoming weekend. By voting against the 3 unrelated ordinances, you will allow an additional 75 to 100 renters to live in Eastwood Look, the Eastwood Look area. This is a residential neighborhood that is already saturated with renters. Council members, picture yourself living in a neighborhood with an additional 75 to 100 renters. The 3 unrelated ordinances will decrease noise, traffic, and pollution caused by cars commuting to campus. It will decrease water and sewage usage in Narragansett. It will improve the quality of life for year-round residents who are being squeezed out of their neighborhoods by landlords more concerned with profits than residential family life. A vote against this change will further incentivize outside landlords to increase rental in residential neighborhoods in our beautiful town. I submit to the council members and all the residents of Narragansett a rhetorical question. Please look yourself in the mirror and honestly answer the question that if you had a choice, would you rather have 3 or 4 unrelated renters living next to you in your residential neighborhood? Please vote for the unrelated ordinance and protect the quality of life in our neighborhoods throughout Narragansett. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Mr. Nonis?
I do. George Nonis, N-O-N-I-S. I'm a year-round resident at 60 Exeter Boulevard in Narragansett. Unlike Mr. McKenna, I actually moved into Eastwood Look on my choice 20 years ago. Why did I do that? Knowing that 60% was rental and there were college students there, because I like the diversity in a neighborhood. So he might be moving out, I moved in. And I'm not a part-time resident, I've lived there for 20 years. I'm here tonight to fully support the recommendations of the Planning Board to not support this change to the no more than 4 unrelated persons ordinance. They did a thorough analysis and concluded this change is not consistent with the town's comprehensive plan. Since no board member has any planning experience, you need to support their findings and oppose the change. The argument that the ordinance need to match is bogus. It's merely a way to justify your actions. If that's the case, then why don't you change the no more than 3 ordinance to match the no more than 4 unrelated, as the Planning Board had discussed and promoted in their meeting. If this change is approved, it will again show the town's motive to be less diverse, less inclusive, and more elitist, as was shown with the passage of the no more than 3 college students, where you told 1,200 law-abiding URI students that they can no longer live in Narragansett and aren't welcome there. Approval of this ordinance will mean that 4 friends, 4 teachers, 4 nuns, 2 unmarried couples, etc., can no longer rent a vacation home in Narragansett. That's not what Narragansett's about. The elimination of some tourists will negatively affect the local businesses, but you've never cared about them in any of your actions. As shown by the recent Providence Journal article on how you're attempting to go around that housing bill that Council President talked about, passed by the Rhode Island General Assembly, Narragansett has become a laughingstock in this state and will continue to do so with the passage of this ordinance change. It's time you supported the recommendations of the Planning Board and not those of the resident-only neighborhood groups with their self-interest agendas. Sadly, your recent moves have changed the welcoming character of Narragansett to one of exclusion by dictating who can and who can't live in Narragansett, by who can and who can't visit and stay in Narragansett. The 2 housing limiting ordinances which the town council has passed negatively affect more people than any other ordinances which this town has ever passed.
It's time that you, for once, not worry about your election, but rather do what's right for Narragansett, the town that Rhode Islanders used to love. So support the professionals on the planning board and reject this change to the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Sir.
Yes. Okay, my name is John Hanley, Hanley, 10 Wilderness Drive. I'll be very brief. I 100% support this ordinance change. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Mr. Zonfrello.
So help me God. Paul Zonfrillo, Zonfrillo, 7 Windward Circle. I support making the number the same for the 3 student. And gentleman up here before is the president of Narragansett 2100, the landlord group that makes $50 million a year in rentals. Narragansett is unbelievably welcoming. And it's not even possible with any of these to actually cut down on the tourism or what's going on. There's so many people down here, the traffic in the summer. It's not going to impact any of that in terms of tourism and all of that. We are a welcoming place, and this is a common sense thing to make the 3 student match, the 3 unrelated. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Seeing no other hands up, I'll go back to the council for any comments and thoughts. I'll start with Councilor Kopech to my left. Okay. All right, I'll go to my right. Councilor Ferrandy.
Thank you, Eva. As the solicitor said, this is for the compliance or the consistency of the other ordinance, so it just makes sense. There's been a lot of contentious lawsuits over the past, so we want to try to mirror it as best as we can and to buttress the legal arguments. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Sisler-Banana?
I'll just say that I like consistency, and I would have preferred for student, for unrelated, since it's already on the book, so I can't support the change. I would have supported it the other way.
Thank you. Oh,
Sure. I just want to state, as far as the planning board's vote, when it came to vote on the matter, the planning board decided to make it into 2 different votes. So one about the comprehensive plan, and then one about their philosophical definitions and reasonings behind the number. So the planning board voted 5-0 to accept this because it is consistent with the plan, the comprehensive plan. Where the vote went 4-1 was not with the comprehensive plan and not meeting the comprehensive plan, but it was with the individuals on the planning board stating their philosophical positions on the definition and the number they thought it should be.
Councilor Kopech.
Well, I guess as long as I've been on the council and even before, I never really understood the 4 unrelated people, what that was about. And I did some research today, and I discovered some things that I didn't know, and I know that the other, a lot of the municipalities surrounding us have 3 unrelated ordinances. And I have a problem with the idea of defining unrelated, and I looked up to see if there was a definition, and I did see one, I think, in the state law, but it's really sort of out of date, in my mind, and it's confusing to me. I was thinking about the fact that I used to be on a board, a nonprofit board, not in Rhode Island, in another state, for group homes for people with disabilities. And, in order to create a group home, there's a lot of work that has to be done in terms of zoning, et cetera, and there's always a bit of pushback. But one of the things there would be usually, in order to make it possible to do financially, you'd have 4 people. They were completely unrelated, and then there would be another person on site for support and care 24 hours a day. I don't really know if we have any group homes here in Narragansett, to be honest with you, but that would be not allowed in this circumstance because they would be completely unrelated people. And that's my problem with an unrelated ordinance, is that I think that there's a lot of different kinds of things, of households that are families but not necessarily related. And so I have no problem with regulating rentals, student rentals particularly. I think that somebody mentioned the word balance earlier, and that's how I feel about students. I don't not want to see them in Narragansett. I just think that we have hit a tipping point, and there needs to be an adjustment. So a question that I have is, why do we have to have, if we're aligning these 2 ordinances, why do we have to have 2? Why is 1 not enough? All the other municipalities only have 1. They don't have 1 for students and 1 for unrelated. So is there some way to answer that question? Well, it is. This is an open, this is,
The motion is talking about whether you
it's
want
not
to
a
adopt.
motion. We're in public hearing.
Well, yeah, so I'll just, okay, so I'll just state that it's the enforceability of, the 3 student. It's constitutionally sound, so we do have a big student population here, so I don't know if I can expand on it anymore. I'm going to refer to the town solicitor to see if we should stop. If there's anything else we can add to this to answer Councilor Kopech's question, but
No, I don't think there's anything stopping the discussion. Why was there 2 ordinances, not 1? I don't know. You could have had 1 ordinance. You can change it to 1 ordinance at a later date. I think following all the issues with the unrelated in the past with the court challenges, and then the Federal Hill case coming down with versus Providence, that being upheld, that was specifically a college student ordinance, which I think led to the adoption of this college student ordinance. And then the unrelated was on the books, and to square things up, we're here tonight. So there may be philosophical differences, but the reality is you need to be practical. And if you're going to allow 3 college students who may be 21 years old, but you're going to allow 4 21-year-olds that work at various businesses, you can see where the legal arguments are going to go. I mean, you're allowing 4 21-year-olds, but you're only allowing 3 21-year-old college students.
I understand the consistency issue. My question is, why do we need 2? And I'm curious, does Providence have an unrelated ordinance?
I don't know for sure.
Interesting. Okay, well, I have those concerns. I've always had those concerns. When I voted in favor of 3 students, I meant it, but I had hoped, I would have preferred 4 at the time. Not the least of which, one of the things the planning board's recommendation talked about was the amount of housing that, there is available for 4 individuals, and it is a significant number, but it also has no impact on the problem houses that I think exist in terms of ones that are like mini dormitories. I think Jill's right that the state should be looking into finding dormitory space, like sort of what Johnson and Wales has done on its own, which I think is interesting and something to make them aware of. But I'm not sure. I have just a real strong, and it is a philosophical disagreement with the concept of regulating, what a family is in a household. So,
Okay, thank you for your comments. All right, so you've already spoken. So I'll just give my thoughts. So we always receive emails every time we have an ordinance that's up for passage. We did receive a lot that were opposing. We also received many in support. We've had many come here to testify in support of it. Like most of the ones in opposition, I think, were the emails from property owners that are renting single-family houses. As we all say, they're very lucrative businesses, and then they're in single-family neighborhoods. So what this ordinance, the 3 unrelated ordinance, will do is not impact any landlords or property owners who are renting properties to families, and that's what we want. We want more year-round families living in our neighborhood. So we could always reflect on, some of the emails we received, property rights, and it's going to impact small businesses if we limit to 3 unrelated. Again, I don't agree with that because I feel like the year-round families and having more families living year-round actually help small businesses. So again, this change is being made at the suggestion of our town's legal counsel. This change creates consistency, as we said, with the town's 3 student ordinance, and it addresses concerns that the town was discriminating against students with the 3 student ordinance, because we keep on hearing it's discriminatory. This change also addresses concerns that we heard when we were discussing the 3 student ordinance from residents who live in R40, R80 neighborhoods with many substandard lots. And this proposal actually reverses the zoning change from 4 unrelated adopted in 2017. So in 2017, it was back to the 4 unrelated, and then that was adopted in the 1987 zoning ordinance. So we did have that on the books. And just to state some facts, Councilor Kopak stated that we do have a lot of communities that have the 3 unrelated. You can look it up. It's more than 50% of the Rhode Island communities have the 3 unrelated standard for single-family dwellings. And then again, like if we look at similar towns, like our neighboring towns of South Kingstown, 3 unrelated, Charlestown, 3 unrelated, and Westerly, 3 unrelated. So they also have similar housing issues and pressures from students and investment rentals. So this change reduces the financial incentives for real estate investors to drive up housing prices in Narragansett by purchasing single-family houses to create rental businesses. So it's like the monetizing of our properties and our homes. So hopefully this will help keep some of our single-family houses more affordable. That's the intent. And then to help stabilize our population and reverse the recent trend of population loss. We had the largest population loss in all of Rhode Island. And this, again, I think this is critical to sustaining small businesses, so the year-round resident population. So those are just my thoughts. Those are, I think I was the last of the council members to comment. So I will get back to the motion. And then just to restate this motion that we're going to take a vote on.
Council President, would you like to close the public hearing first?
Oh.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'm sorry. We're not voting on this yet. So we are going to, we have a motion to, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So
Getting
moved.
ahead of myself.
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopak. Motion passes 5-0. Next up, we have a motion to receive and file the Planning Board's recommendations in regard to the proposed ordinance and amendment of the definition of households.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopak. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, so we'll vote on that later in the meeting. We just have to go back to where we left off, which is the Planning Board recommendation. So we'll go back to that. So the public hearing is closed. Thank you. Okay, so getting back to our motion to appoint one individual to the planning board for a 5-year term to expire on November 1st, 2028. We had 2 nominations to summarize, Mr. Callahan and and then we had Brian Wagner as our nominees. So just discussion from the council. We heard the nominees, and I would just like to go to council members for their thoughts on potential candidates for the planning board. So I'll go to Councilor Ferrandi. Okay, no,
I nominated, yes.
okay,
So we know where you stand.
okay. So Councilor Cicely Bonanno.
I would support Brian Wagner at this point. Tom, I think, is great. He did a good job in the interview, but for all the reasons that we heard from Brian, and I think Deb repeated them tonight, he would definitely be a candidate that I think would be an asset to the town.
2 excellent candidates. I do favor Tom Callahan. He has some experience with the University of Connecticut that I believe he could bring here and hopefully help us with URI. Brian Wagner is a wonderful candidate. I do have a little bit of a concern that he is the planning board, he's the community development director at the sister town of ours in South Kingstown.
He's a planning manager.
I'm corrected by Councilor Kopech that he's a planning manager, but he still is there at South Kingstown, and that is a little bit of a conflict with me, although he's a great candidate.
Thank you. Okay, so I agree. These are 2 really, really wonderful candidates that we interviewed previously. The last time we were appointing planning board members, we interviewed Mr. Callahan as well. I had supported Mr. Callahan previously, and I will support him again this evening. Would anyone like to propose a motion?
To make a motion to nominate and vote on the nomination of Tom Callahan.
A second.
So we have a motion to nominate Mr. Callahan to the planning board for a 5-year term to expire on November 1st, 2028. It was motioned by Councilor Ferrandi, seconded by Councilor Lawler. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 3-2. Deb, did you vote no? Okay, 3-2.
I was just louder than you.
I don't like voting no.
Okay, next on the agenda from the town solicitor is a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept as a first reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett entitled Zoning, specifically Section 2.2 entitled Definitions, Households.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, so we just had the public hearing on this, so there will be no comment. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, so motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. We have 3 in favor, 1 abstention, 1 nay. Next on, we have from the Town Council, we have a motion to receive and file the request from Local 1589 International Association of Firefighters to engage in collective bargaining and appoint 1 council member to serve on a negotiations team.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. So this last month, Councilor Lawler had contacted me stating that she was interested in being the council appointee. I know I spoke with Councilor Kopech. She was also interested, but I believe we're just going to let Councilor Lawler. So I'll nominate Councilor Lawler. So we will appoint a motion to appoint. Do I have a motion to appoint Councilor Lawler as the council member to serve on the negotiations team.
A motion to appoint Jill Lawler to the nominating, to the International Local 1589 negotiating team.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to receive and file the request from Local 1589 International Association of Firefighters to engage in collective bargaining and appoint Jill Lawler, council member, to serve on the negotiations team. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Saw that one coming. It's all right.
Sarah, so is that okay to put it all together like that, or should I have separate? Okay, so motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech, motion passes 3-2. So lastly on the agenda, we have an executive session. We have a motion to retire to executive session of the Town Council in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-4 and 42-46-5A for the purpose of litigation pursuant to 42-46-5A2 to discuss and direct the solicitor on action for the appeal of WC-2022-0382, 25 Peaked Rock Road, LLC, versus Erin A. Jacobs in her capacity as tax assessor for the town of Narragansett.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I'll take a roll call.
Deb Kopech, aye.
Jill Lawler, aye.
Susan Cicilline, Banano, aye.
Steve Ferrandy, aye.
Eva Drzinski, aye. Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. We're going to retire to executive session, and we will come back, disclose the votes, and then adjourn the meeting. Are you ready, Dan? Okay. So we're back from executive session. Just for the disclosure of votes, we had a motion to seal the minutes. Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passed 5-0. And a motion to exit and return to regular session.
It was seconded by Steve Ferrandi.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me clarify that. Sorry. A motion to seal the minutes. Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Ferrandi. Motion passed 5-0. And we also had a motion to exit and return to the regular meeting. Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passed 5-0. And lastly, we have a motion. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech.